Hello dear singers, we have another video today for you all. Let me first apologize for my environment. I'm coming to you from beautiful Split, Croatia, which, by the way, one of the most beautiful places I've ever visited. Do yourself a favor and try to plan a trip or a vacation here. But with that being said, my apartment is I apologize for the lighting. But funny enough, this shows that you don't need expensive luxurious space or equipment to do any of the things that we're going to do today. You just need a room. And so what are we doing today? Today, what I wanted to do is take specific types of sounds, vocal phonations, and put them to the test. 4 sounds specifically, and these are tests that you can do at home. You do not need to spend hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars to do any of these tests. You really just need a phone, some sort of glass. You can use a glass like this, or if you have glasses as well, that works. Some candles, or a way to make flame. If you don't have that, a light piece of paper that you could hold up like this. But let's be honest, if you can get a flame, even better. And then if you have a phone, you can download these 2 free apps. And voila, that's all you need, and you can do these tests at home with me. So we're gonna begin with the first test. Take out your candle or your flame, and if you really don't have one, put a light tissue paper right in front of you, something that can move with a little bit of air. But I do highly suggest you just get a candle because it's much easier. Now, we have probably seen this test before, and this first test is to make sure that our sound is not leaking air. It's not a breathy sound. A sound that leaks air is, number 1, not well supported. Number 2, will not be resonant, does not have the squillo, the brilliance to cut through an orchestra, so it's a sound that lacks resonance. And number 3, a sound that leaks breath, or it's breathy in any sort of way, won't allow us to sing for long phrases at a time, because we're using up more air, therefore less time to sing. We're gonna run out of air. There's no element of leaning, there's no resistance, there's no support, there's no appoggio. So the first sound that we're gonna put to the test is sort of this pop sound quality, this sigh, which many of you start singing this way. I can assure you that a lot of air is leaking, and therefore it does not sound operatic. There is no adduction. Look at the flame. This sound is quite relaxing. It doesn't cost you anything because there is no subglottic pressure. We might as well be blowing the flame out. Okay, so the second sound we're going to put to the test is the same sigh but with an open throat. That feeling of yawning. This is another sound that a lot of you are doing, which is a good sound to isolate concepts. For those of you who are not used to just opening the throat, this is a great way for you just to isolate that idea. But that does not mean that that's how you sing. No, you have just barely scratched the surface. You cannot sing, no. That's the tilt position. You are in an open throat position, but the chords are again loose, breathy. Too much air is leaking. This is not a resonant sound. This is not an operatic sound. This is not a sound that is supported. This is just a sound that allows you to get that sensation of stretching and thinning the chords. It allows you to stay healthy so you don't build habits of pushing just yet. And it allows you to stay with an open throat position in the tilt. But it's missing adduction. It's missing support. There is no singing yet. There's no clarity of tone. It's all breathy. So now, the other extreme. We could technically call this next sound a belt. I would also go ahead and say that it's a moan without an open throat position. Lots of pop singers sing this way when they start to get to the higher range of their voice. I am strong. High position. a bit grunty. There's adduction, but it can be a bit strangulating because we're not in an open throat position. And see, most pop singing is done with a mixture of the first sound and then this sound around mid-range to the high. When I am down and oh my soul so weary. Breathy. I am strong. Belty at the top. So let's put that to the test. Ah! 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 The flame does not move. That means that we are no longer leaking air. We have a more clear, adducted chord. Because of that, we also have more subglottic pressure. However, this sound is a bit aggressive, and because we have a high larynx position, it's also a bit strangulating. Doesn't move the flame, but you wouldn't be able to sing that way for a very long time. So now what would happen if we put that same amount of adduction, that moan, that belt, ha! But we did it with an open throat position. Like that second sound we did that was breathy but had an open throat. It had the tilt. But this time we won't allow it to be breathy. We will have the same amount of adduction. Now we have the best of both worlds. We have a sound that is much easier to ascend and descend because we're in the tilt, we're in the open throat position, but we have adduction. We're finding adduction whether through a gentle glottic attack that's on the breath, or increasing the air pressure to the point that the chords start to adduct, release an increased energized amount of air. So that is the first test. Sorry, I have a bunch of wax in my fingers now. For most of you doing this test, you're going to realize just how much lean and support you need to get that clean, clear adduction while maintaining a sense of relaxation and freedom in the vocal mechanism. Remember, relax the vocal mechanism, the vocalist, but you must have clean, clear adduction, and the sound must be on the body. For those of you just starting to do that exercise, you're gonna find that you're either moving the flame all over the place, or you're gonna be grunting or hurting yourself trying to get adduction. Remember, neither extreme is the answer. Find the adduction with the relaxed mechanism. Now, while we're on the subject, we're talking a lot about the sound being on the body, must be leaning, must be supported, must be in the appoggio. You have to think of the support very similar to the Valsalva maneuver. If you are opening the throat, taking a breath, and then if you decided, just like you would with the Valsalva maneuver, to close all sorts of opening for the breath to not come out, you're definitely gonna feel an element of pressure. I am closing all sorts of escape routes or openings so that no air is leaving. If I decided at the same time to release air, but the air cannot be released because I'm stopping it, it's like I'm almost holding my breath while trying to speak or sing, you're gonna feel this sensation of pressure. Now, if you did the same thing and just relaxed the chords a little bit, you're gonna see how this air shoots out like a cannon, like it's blasting, like a bullet. What I'm doing is I'm closing the vocal cords, I'm not letting any air escape, and then I start the Valsalva maneuver, and then I open my cords. And you're gonna find a feeling of a loud pressurized sound that's on the body is now being phonated without any muscular or forceful tension. Now what you need to learn to do is elongate that process. Remember the open throat, remember the release of the air, but it must be released through adducted cords. That's the only way you're gonna have pressurized air. Get it through the head. Loose cords, not pressurized air. Think of it as low PSI for those of you that know anything about air cannons or the toys I used to have with that shot out pressurized air. Think of it low PSI. Loose cords, low PSI. Oh, no pressure, no sound. Lots of PSI, ready to go. And as a consequence, the body reacts. It's ready to go. See how it's reacting? Even though I'm not even making a sound because I'm getting the breath ready. I'm bringing the breath from here, ready to go, to here. It's a wallop of a sound, and all you need to do is maintain the tilt, the open throat posture, and get that clean adduction. Think that beautiful bright vowel. No, not a bright vowel, not the correct posture, overly dark, breathy. Feel it in your pharynx. Feel the resonance. And you'll see that you also will not be blowing out the flame. Valsalva maneuver. Practice it and apply it gradually and in a smart, healthy manner to your singing. You ever seen boxers, as soon as they punch, they let out a puff of air? Karate fighters, even sports players like tennis, after they always hit the ball, there's always an element of, with the action, It's the same with singing. There has to be a release of pressurized air. And air can only be pressurized if it's going through adducted cords. That's the only way the body will kick in. The support mechanism will kick in. You can start, if you want, with a H sound. But you should gradually start to learn to not be reliant on that H and stay adducted always. Second test. The sound must be sul fiato, on the breath. It must be a vibrant, radiant breath. So take your glass, if you have one. If you also have glasses, these are sunglasses, so they don't give me the best results, but if you have transparent glasses, and the idea is to put now the correct sound to the test. Is it air, in which the glass won't fog up, or is it breath? It's breath. Must be breath. Cannot just be air. Even if we were to put the sigh with an open throat, which will fog up the glass, as we have learned, that sound has no adduction. So it doesn't serve any purpose. Again, unless you're just using the sound as a development tool to isolate a certain concept. But other than that, it's not how we sing. Foggy, breathy, vibrant breath. Breath. Adduction and sul fiato. As you sing your arias, as you vocalize, do it with one of these tools. Either the candle or the glass. Sometimes you don't realize how much you can do with these inexpensive things. This is like $1. Everyone has at least a glass. And these are a guide to tell you if you're doing things correctly or not. The next test we're gonna do is by using a free application called Decibel X. There's also other applications that do the same thing. It's a decibel counter. All it really does is it counts the decibels of a sound. If a sound is louder, it's gonna get a higher count. If it's softer or less resonant, it's gonna get a smaller count. So I have my iPad literally about, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet from me, and I'm putting up another video on the screen so you can see that it's happening live. Now, we're not gonna care too much about the numbers. The numbers don't matter itself. We're in a small apartment. The iPad, it's super close to me. The microphone that captures sound on the iPad, I think, is like here too. So this is not a reliable environment to see exactly how many decibels you're producing in your voice or in your sound. Because we as opera singers, we sing in large halls. So this isn't a suitable environment. However, nevertheless, it still works for our test, for our experiment. We're going to put those same 4 sounds to the test, and this will show us which of those sounds has more resonance. So first things first, you have to be silent and get an idea of how many decibels is the environmental sound, okay? So let's be silent for a second. Okay, so it seems that around 36, 37, 38, that's the environmental sound. That's the AC, the hums of electricity, conversations outside. Environmental sound is around 36, 37, 38 in this apartment where I am now. When I speak, as I'm speaking to you right now, speaking sound, at least normal conversational sound, is somewhere in the high 60s to mid 70s. It ranges, okay? So now that we have an idea of the environmental sound and a conversational sound, let's begin with the first phonation, a sigh, without an open throat. So depending where I am on the range, where I'm somewhere in the middle, low, or high, it doesn't seem to be much higher than conversational speaking. Actually, I would say that most points is even below conversational speaking, which means the sound isn't very loud at all, obviously, which we already knew. Around the high range of the voice, do we reach some 80s? But again, it's not considered a loud or resonant sound. Now let's do a sigh with an open throat. Okay, so an open throat sound, really not much more of a difference. We're still somewhere around the 80s. We touched some 90s in the decibel counter, especially around the higher range. But as we know, again, not a loud resonant sound. It's missing that adduction, that support, that squillo that comes from a release of pressurized breath. This is also good to note that just opening the throat, that will not add volume or sound or resonance. Opening the throat is just a posture. This is a bad posture for walking. This is a more erect posture for walking. Same thing here. A high laryngeal position is a bad posture for singing. An open throat position, the tilt, is a correct posture for singing. All that the onset does, that open throat position, that tilt, all it does is it gets you in the correct posture for the chords to be allowed to stretch and thin. So let's get that straight as well. Opening the throat will not add any sort of resonance or size to your singing. It just gets you in the correct posture to sing in a more relaxed, released manner, in which the chords are able to be elastic. The yawn, by nature, is not a loud sound, but it is a gentle, relaxed vocal phonation. So when a lot of teachers talk about the yawn, they are talking about the posture, the feeling of singing with ease, but not that the opening of the throat will add resonance or size or volume. It won't. Sound, volume, resonance all comes from the adduction of the chords and the subglottic pressure below the chords, subglottic. Volume and resonance comes from a supported sound, just like we did with the Valsalva maneuver. You can already tell that one is louder than the other. Another thing that the opening of the throat does is that it enlarges the acoustical space. That feeling of dome, that feeling of openness. We have a bigger chamber of resonance, but that still won't make us resonant if the chords are loose. We need the motor. Like I say, opening the throat, the onset, the tilt, that's the on button of the instrument. But just turning it on won't do anything. We still need the motor. It's like turning the keys to the car. Turning the key won't do anything, it'll start the car, but we now need the gas to go, the motor, the engine. That comes all from a supported sound. And a sound, again, cannot be supported if it doesn't have adduction. Let's now do the third phonation process, which is a belt with a high laryngeal position. Oh, oh. Okay, so just like we talked about it, the feeling is not good. It's straining, it's high laryngeal, it's adducted, but it's a lot of pressure with the wrong posture. I feel like I'm strangling myself. Ah! Ah! It's almost like a scream. But, ah! We're able to hit now the high 90s to the 100s, which means it's a much louder, a much more resonant sound than the other two. It continues to prove the point of what I'm saying. You must have adduction if you want to sing opera, because we don't have amplification. We are our own amplification. And the sound that's not amplified artificially, a sound that's resonant by nature, is a sound that is well adducted and has support. Now let's do it correctly with adduction and an open throat. Think of it as a moan, a vibrant moan with an open throat. And this is what I keep telling you guys. Start associating your singing to something pleasurable, to a moan, because a moan will give you adduction, but keeps the vocal mechanism quite relaxed. If you're able to do a moan with an open throat and add the singing quality, the vibrations, right? You're going to be closer to a correct phonation process for opera. So let's test it. Open throat with a moan or a belt-like sound. Now we're definitely in the 100s. And that's without vibration. If we now start to sing in that position, let's see. we're now reaching numbers that we never reached before. Again, it's not about the number. I don't care if it's 81, 100, 102. Like I said, this is not an experiment to see how high you can hit. It's just an experiment if a sound is higher or lower than the others, because the environment is not suitable. But compared to the sounds we did before, this reaches a much higher decibel count, and we're maintaining that count steady. We're somewhere around the 105, 107 based off of this environment, and we're maintaining that as we sing. So, thus far, we are in agreement, based on the tests that we have made, that an adducted sound with an open throat that allows you to have a relaxed mechanism, an elastic quality to the singing, that flexibility, but with clean, clear adduction, with support, with that feeling of that Valsalva maneuver, that's going to give you the best results. Go and strive towards that. If you are singing, or if you're in the other extreme, use these tests to start to gradually find the benefits of both sounds. The flexibility and elasticity of sound number 1 with the adduction support that comes with sound number 2. And none of the disadvantages, none of the forcing, the high larynx, the screaming, the straining, and also none of the loose chords, the breathiness, the leaking of air. We want both. The final test is with the second application called Spectrum View. This is a free of charge spectrogram to, again, give us an idea of what is happening behind each sound. If you want to go ahead and spend a lot of money on the fancy-pantsy spectrographs, then that's on you. But this one's free, and there are others that are also free. I will leave the link to the applications in the description if you want to download them. So here we go. The iPad is exactly in the same location. I'm going to put, again, a video in corner of the screen so you can see it happening real time. I am speaking, and as I am speaking, things are happening. So just like last time, the first thing you want to do is silence to get an idea when it's just the environmental sound, and that's all. Okay, so based on just the environmental sound, which we're looking here, we're not getting much of anything past the first 1,000 frequencies. We're in the low or halfway, somewhere around the 1,000 frequencies. So again, this is our base point. As I speak, you start to see how everything changes and we're starting to get more sound. Beginning with sound number 1, just a sigh. No open throat position. So let's look at the results. Number 1, we have some weak harmonic energy. The harmonic stacks are faint and they diffuse. The top harmonics, they decay quickly, showing there's not much more ring or overtones, so this is typical of a breathy phonation. When we sing operatically, you'll see how well defined the harmonic structure actually is, but this doesn't show it. Number 2, there's low intensity. The entire graph is practically mostly blue, and it's fading into some green, some yellows in the lower bands. This means low volume, especially in the higher frequencies. Singing demands resonant energy all across the spectrum, especially around the 2 to 4 frequency zone, which is what we call the singer's format. And as you can see here, that area is basically dark. Last and not least, there's no formant clarity. There are no clear peaks in the mid to upper frequencies. It's just a spread of low frequency blur. There's no vowel shaping, obviously, because we're sighing. No formant tuning, no ring, there's no focus. And also one more thing to add is that each vertical cluster begins softly and also diffuses. In good singing, we expect a precise, energized onset with a clear buildup of harmonic intensity, not a puff. Sound number 2. Sigh with an open throat tilt position. Okay, so now we have a sigh with an open throat position, a tilt, very much close to somewhat of a yawn. We see here a little bit more overtones, but still quite weak. Compared to the earlier sigh, we see some more harmonic activity, especially in the middle to the upper range. But the onsets are still very gentle and vague. There's lacking a clean attack, obviously, because we're still in a breathy sound, a sigh. There's no clear or energized beginning to each phrase. We're in the tilt, which means we have cricothyroid engagement. This is great for upper resonance and vowel shaping, but there's a lack of vocal fold resistance. There's no glottal compression. You're still letting air escape freely instead of holding back that subglottic pressure. The result? Well, as you can see, the formants aren't fully fed by the harmonics. Look at how the higher overtones fan out loosely with no tight core. This shows a diffused tone, one that's spread out instead of focused. A classical singer with proper appoggio and chord closure will show long, dense, and aligned harmonics up into the singer's formant region. And that brings us to the singer's formant, that 2.5 to 4,000 frequency range. Again, just like last time, the region is dark or barely lit. That area is where your squillo lives, that ping. It needs to be lit, and it's not active here at all. You're in the space and shape of singing. That's what the open throat, that's what the tilt gives you, but we're not applying the energy and the adduction required to create squillo. Sound number 3. A moan or a belt with a high laryngeal position. Ah! 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 Okay, so here we're getting different results. We have stronger harmonics. It's well defined and they extend high into the frequency range. This is starting to suggest a firm vocal fold closure. Your chords are now coming together tightly, which is good, even though, to be honest, the larynx is high. Therefore, the posture is incorrect and it has a straining sensation. Okay? Now, vocal fold closure is correct. However, it does seem to be too squeezed. The clarity is there, but the tone lacks freedom. And this comes because we are singing with adduction, but without an open throat position. We're singing with a high larynx. We're seeing lots of yellow and orange concentrated in the bottom third. This is usually a characteristic of belting or yelling, which is what we're doing here at this point. It's not appoggio based, it's not supported, it's not well supported, and it's not balanced. Now, you can also see that this is a tensed sound. This is a sound with lots of tension. We're having resonance at the beginning, but then we lose it due to that high larynx constriction. And finally, yeah, there's higher frequency presence, yes, but it's not concentrated in the singer's format, which again is in that 2.5 to 4,000 frequency region. Final conclusions, you are pushing that energy, but you're not funneling it through resonance. Sound number 4. Same amount of adduction as the belt or the moan, but now with an open throat tilt position. So now we're getting much better results. This has a clear, dense harmonic structure. Vertical clusters have tight, clear stacked harmonics, stretching high into the frequency range. This indicates a firm but not pressed vocal fold closure. It has lots of resonant energy across the entire overtone series. The bottom harmonics are strong, but not super overwhelming, which means a good balanced fold closure, not tensed. Around, and obviously you can see it here, the singer's formant, right? Around the 2.5 to the 4,000 frequency region, there is consistent brightness across many of the notes. This is where that squillo lives. You're feeding the formants. You're not just making a sound, it's resonant, it's projected, and it's singing. The vowel is correctly tuned, the larynx isn't locked up. The onsets are clean, they're not fuzzy, they're not also explosive, and the releases are intentional, they're not abrupt. This tells us that this type of tone is being shaped by breath support. It's not shoved or dropped. There's no pressing or harshness. It's even with strung adduction. We are not sighing, we're not yelling. We have a vocal phonation process that is efficient and it's projecting clearly with proper appoggio. So we have completed all 4 tests. Again, these are things that you can do at home to help guide you in your vocal development process. Please don't become over fixated with any of these tests. A lot of singing is also instinctual and it's unique based on your sensations as well. None of these substitute a good vocal teacher with good ears that you trust. However, they can be good tools to use in a smart manner. Now that we have finalized the test, we can conclude that the best result for a resonant operatic sound that maintains freedom and elasticity is one that has the correct posture, an open throat, a feeling of that O or U vowel laryngally, a posture similar to one of a yawn or a gasp that opens the valve. However, that is not the final result. You have to open the throat, maintain that sensation of opening while adducting the vocal cords. Based on the test, we must allow the cords to stretch and thin, but also adduct. So there is an element of rigidity. However, it must be manageable. It must be maintainable. It can't be so rigid, so tense that the cords are not allowed to stretch. However, it can't be so loose that the cords stretch, but the cords don't adduct. Once we establish correct posture, singing on the tilt with adduction, now finally we can establish proper support. But you see, people do this out of order. They try to establish support before they understand what the correct posture is. And even if they find the correct posture, there's no way to establish support if your cords are loose. Because as we learned, there's no support if the cords are loose. Breath is just leaking. There's no support in this sound. It's impossible for me to support that sound because the pieces are not put together to establish pressure. Pressure only comes when the cords are in a narrow position, in an adducted position. Now we have everything prepared to establish proper breath support, appoggio. If we're doing the Valsalva maneuver, like I explained before, the idea is now to elongate that release of air so that it's not just in puffs, but it's maintained. There's a resistance to it. It's elongated to be able to sing a musical phrase. And like Maestro Salvatore Fisichella would say, you should be able to sustain notes without using much air. You realize you don't need much air to sustain notes, because we should be building in our technique such a clean adduction in the correct posture that very little air is escaping. It's just breath, as we saw with the glass exercise. And this is what a lot of teachers mean when they say stop the air here, stop it in the larynx, or bring the breath from your belly up to here or here. The problem is if you don't explain it correctly, you don't go through all these things, the student or the singer will believe that they have to literally stop the air. And then we have a tense, forceful type of singing. The air never stops. And I made a video about this. Here's the link if you want to check it out. I proved this by putting my head under the water and singing. The air, no matter how adducted you want the chords to be, when you're making any sort of phonation, that means air is passing through the chords, initiating vibration. So air is passing through the chords, but it's not in puffs. It's not leaking air. It's not a breathy quality sound. We don't want that's a breathy quality sound. I can do the open throat and be in the tilt all day long, but it will not fix that problem. It's a breathy sound. It's not correct. Stopping the air or bringing the breath from your belly up to your larynx, what we've done, that's what that means. I am not in pain. This isn't forcing or tensing the sound. This is a theatrical sound. This is a sound for the theater. It's a resonant, voluminous sound without forcing or pushing muscularly to be louder. It's loud just because of the subglottic pressure passing through adducted chords and maintaining the vocal mechanism relaxed and open and tilted, stretching and thinning the chords with a supported sound. And I'm going to keep repeating myself. These are all things I have said already, but it needs to be repeated. And I hope that this answers to a lot of you who have been asking me the same things over and over and over again. The sound must be supported. There is no way out of that. You need to get that in your brain. It will never be falsetto. We can strive to find a sense of ease and relaxation like we get with falsetto, but it will never be exactly like falsetto because we are supporting the sound. We are in full voice. We are bringing the chest voice up. Don't be afraid to make a loud sound. And you will not hurt yourself, okay? It takes many, many years of singing incorrectly to get you to hurt yourself. But just trying these things out for 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes, even every other day, you won't hurt yourself. Even if you're doing it incorrectly, unless you're doing it for hours and hours and hours, and it's literally starting to hurt you, then stop. But you will not hurt yourself by trying that out. Try the Valsalva maneuver. Don't be afraid to build up pressure. Don't be afraid of compression. Don't feel afraid of developing the correct musculature. But that doesn't mean forcing. It means maintaining a posture, building the musculature to maintain a posture. But the release of sound comes from the support, comes from a pressurized release of air. Must be that way. And then learn to elongate it. Learn to elongate the support while it's active. Keep it going, keep it vibrant, keep it visceral. All these concepts of vocal cracking, falsetto, connecting from falsetto by increasing air pressure, this is all to get you to this position. To get you to be in a relaxed position while singing in a pressurized manner. So I hope that this has helped, and I hope through these tests, as you guys also do them at home, you're able to find truth from fallacy and start to build your technique based on these guidelines. You will see it with your own eyes if the flame starts to move, so you know that's incorrect. You'll see it with your own eyes if you're singing, and as you're singing, you are sul fiato, on the breath. You're closer to the truth now with these tools than just someone saying it on YouTube or singing in the shower without any idea of what's happening and what's going on in the vocal phonation process as you are singing. To summarize this entire video, I think it must be said that singing, at least when done in this way, is not an action. You don't sing, because then people start to use musculature to sing. Ah! You set up certain preparation for the singing to be allowed. All you do is prepare and ah! I'm going from a completely closed position to just enough amount of air with adducted chords to get sound. Ah! 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 And that's all. You are going to get such a more honest sound too. There's no fake coloring. There's no, oh, well, I want my voice to sound like there. You don't have control over that. All you could do is artificially fake a color, but it won't serve you in any way. It'll be a disadvantage to you if you go that route. Find your honest, God-given, transparent sound without any corruption to it, and you will only find it if you do it like this. It must be done like this. This is nature. It's how babies cry, for God's sake. It's the same mechanism. Ah! Ah! The same mechanism. And you can do it for hours without tiring, for hours. Once you're able to do that from your lowest point of a range to the highest point of the range, then you must do it in all the vowels. A, E, I, O, U. And if you can do it with all the vowels from the lowest point of your range to the highest point of your range, congratulations. You are now ready to sing some music. But before that, it serves no purpose. You're just going to build bad habits. So that's all for now. I hope that this has helped some of you. Like always, these are my thoughts, my observations, my experiences and my experiments. If you don't like what I'm saying and you hate everything I say, then keep that to yourself, because no one's forcing you to do any of this. And honestly, I could care less. However, if this has helped just 1 or 2 or 3 of you, I am immensely happy. That is why I do it. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, become a CTS member. It always helps me to continue to put these contents out. And it also has benefits for those of you who want to go the extra mile and get a more personal touch. Become a CTS member. And like always, continue practicing, studying. The work continues. Ciao, ciao for now.